Hello, in this video, in this coding session, we will be building an application with Golang and Beego. Beego is a Golang's web framework. I am working on kind of like video documentation or tutorial for Golang. And before going on each separate steps, like what's controller, models, and how they work in this specific framework, Beego, I want to build some kind of project or application and end to end by of course learning this Beego, and this will be coding session. If you want to know more, check the link in description or in comments whether you want to watch this video, depending on whether you watch this video. But in this session I will just work on a project. You will see the work process. I guess it will be quite long, so if you want to see shorter version, check the link in description. And what I will do today, let me open. So I usually do this kind of stuff on Draw.io. What I will do, let's create a new diagram. I will call it Golang Beego. Yes. And what I will do, I want to just put some parts that I will work on, so it's a bit organized. It's not just a random project. So first of all, we will start with a project. So, and by the way, I will take also notes here on this page. So I will also put it in this link in description. So first of all, let's define our project, meaning that by what I mean by define, so idea of the project or example project, and then structure, Go, like then actual code base, so Go project, and then what I'm thinking of, so we will have some API. So Beego is a web framework. You can do API project and also HTML like web project, like with some actual pages. First I want to try with API, so we have some working API, and also I want to have a database, and meaning that we need to have models, and maybe, I don't know, we can do it in this part or next part, we can also add some web application like with HTMLs. So our first goal is this part. And in terms of what it is gonna be, I mean, what we will store in database, let's start with very basics. So let's imagine that we have, so in database, I'm looking for diagram that will reflect it properly. But anyway, so let's say we have post model. So we will need to see how we can create a post model or any model in Beego. And this post model will has fields like, let's say, let me a little increase, like zoom in so you can see. So so what we're gonna have, we will have name or title, let's say title, which will be string, and we're gonna have so I want to see also cross model dependencies, like let's say we have one table, another table, and they work together, they are connected to each other. So what I'm gonna do, I will have category, which will be another model, category model, and let's define this category model. And in this category model, we will have name of the category, and yeah, I don't want to go like deeper, saying that is a parent or child of this category, but for now we can start with a name, yeah, and then we will have a post. And maybe also we can introduce introduce slug or like this, so we can use it in our we can use it as an ID, and slug is a like string that we can use in a URL path. So, and I want to also have it for post. So let's say we will have slug and it is a string. So this is simple. So we will have two models, two entities, post and category, and post will have a reference to the category. So it is gonna be frogging k like category ID. So this is gonna be our database, quite simple. In terms of API, let's have another diagram. So let's say API. In terms of API, what we might need, let's say we have one API, and by API I mean our endpoint. So we will have post, like post model, not post as a method. So we will have post API. It can start like we will name them plural, so it will be posts. So meaning that if we want to get one post, we will need to provide its ID or slug. So by the way, let's put also here, we will have, since it's obvious and most of the frameworks, they do add this ID field automatically. Most of the time I skip it. But yeah, I will have an ID, which will be integer. And also for category, we also need the same. So we will have ID, which will be integer. By the way, let's increase this a bit so we see the whole text. Then, okay, so we will have posts, and if you provide ID by get method, you will receive that post. You can post to posts to add a new one, and you can do delete on posts one to delete the exact post. So we need to create, update, delete for CRUD operations. So maybe we can also do put and post ID one if we want to make some modifications on the existing post. So this will be our post API. So it makes sense to also have a similar for category. So there will be category API, category endpoint, so which will be categories, and then similarly, so we will have post, get, post, delete, and then put. So this will be our API. By the way, so we will need to take care of, so whenever we call this one and we do get, maybe we can also define, so this is actually all can serve as a JSON structure. So this will be how we return. So maybe we can put as an example, so whenever we do a get, we expect to get a JSON similar to this. So we will have an ID with one, let's say we will have a name, so it should be like this. So this is what we're gonna return from the endpoint. So we will have this. Name will be we have by name I mean it should be slug. Let's say post one, for example, and also let's say title. So title one. I will keep it very simple. And also category ID, so we will need to provide category ID, which will receive an integer. This is ID of another model, so we can link them together. So this is a very simple JSON structure for this model. So these are like basically our project definition, right? So that's what we're gonna build. What we can do is actually we can start with a project. I will do this project so I have already the repository which I use for tutorials in Beego. It is under Coder Vloggers GitHub account. So if I can find it, GitHub, yeah. Okay, I'll remember later. Okay, and here we have this repository. So I will use this as a base. And by the way, if you go to my website, you can find yeah, it's not published, but in most of my tutorials, I also include REPL, so you can actually try this project on your browser. So this is a tool, maybe you know it, and using this tool, you can run some projects like Node.js or Go. They support a lot of languages in the browser. So I will put also a link to this, so you can run the project that we will work on your browser. But it's better to try it locally, so just in case. So now we need to start a project. So what I will do, I will go to the Beam. So by the way, about the framework, like very, very quickly. I guess if you've watched this video, you are already somehow familiar with this framework. But basically and very shortly, Beego is a web framework in Go language. It's MVC-based web framework, so model view controller structure. As I said, you can do you can create APIs and also web project like with HTML. That's why we have this view. And actually on their documentation, they have very nice explanation of this. I believe it's under this page. So when you do command API, so you need to have this B, and you can install it using this documentation. So this is how you install Beego framework itself. But you can also install B, which is a tool or CLI tool with all these nice commands. So, and this CLI tool helps you to create a project or add some scaffolding, like you want to create a controller. You can use this tool as well, or generate. And one of these like commands is new, so which we're gonna use in a second. Which will generate the structure of your project. And another one is API, which does the same, but for API projects. So whenever you have only API without any views, you can use this command. We're gonna use this first one because I plan to add some HTML to this project later on. So I will go with this one. I will name it very simply. I will just call it project. Because this is in a folder of my tutorials, that's why I do new B. Well, let me double check my folder. Yes. And what I will do B new and call it project. So now we have this project. I will go to the project. And let's open it in Visual Studio Code. I will use this as my ID, as my code editor. So, and let's stop this one. Yeah. And what I'm gonna do, I will go back a bit, open this project folder. And actually this is very similarly, so we can run we can use the same tool B to run the project. Let me a bit zoom. So 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. And now what we can do in the first one, I will open. So I will use this part for some changes like JIT and etc. And this part for running the project. And I will do it right away. So B run. By the way, I believe you can also use Go run like this. it will install the dependencies and also run the project. Because Beego, it uses main.go, which will serve as a project entry point. We can check here. I think it's running. Let me go here and run localhost 8080. So this is our project running. But I will follow btools subcommand because I like this output but like more, so I will use this one. Yeah, and by the way, if you want to see also all this help, you can use this b-h, and also for each project I was struggling to find more on this one, on this command. But you can also do like b help, and it will give some kind of explanation, some like short explanation on subcommand, or what we used new. So it also explains how you can do, how you can provide additional options. Maybe you can also check API. So this is how you can get help for this particular subcommand. Okay, so right now let's focus on a project. Now we have basic project structure. Let's go through it. As I said, check link in description for shorter version. It might be not immediately available, but you can check it later on. So basically in this configuration, we have configuration, we can set port and etc. project name. And also I believe for subcommands, it checks on this folder, on this file for some additional configuration. So in controllers, we have, of course, controllers. We will dive a bit more on in this part. Our model is empty because it's just basic project structure. We will add some more. So router is interesting because this is a file where you set all this routing, part. We can try it out. Let's say, let's do like a very simple controller. Let me copy this one. I am a bit improvising right now, and I believe this is one of the best ways for learning. You just try some stuff that came to your mind and see how it works. So what I want to do, I want to have like /about page and set a router for this. So what I will do, I will add about controller. It also embeds a controller type from Beego, so we can check it out a bit more. I open this by command clicking on this name. This is how it works in Visual Studio Code. And this is, it's also explained very well in documentation. This is how you set, this how, like, if you come from an object-oriented programming language, this your parent class, but in Go it's a bit different. You embed this in your type, so all these methods which is in this type will be available on your type, on your structure. But I will leave most of the Go language magic out of this video. I believe if you're checking Beego, you have some familiarity with Golang. So okay, so let's continue. So we changed this file struct name, so we need to also do it here. And what we can do in terms of data. So basically in Beego, that's how you pass data from your controller to your view. I believe for now we can leave this. And I will just change the template name, so I will use it about.tpl. And when I go to the views, I will again copy this. I will paste another one, rename this to about, and so we don't need this part. This is they embed image directly here, so I don't need this part. I don't need any of this styling. And by the way, if you also suffer with this, like you see that there is no syntax highlighting, you can go here and set HTML. I believe we can also do it somewhere in settings that always when we open TPL file, it will be recognized as HTML file, but I will do it later. So we have another page. It's called about Beego about. Oh, we have very nice project name, right? Project/about. And welcome to the project. Okay, and blah blah blah. I will leave all this. Interesting part here is this. This is how you set how you render output of the variable. And they use, if I'm not wrong, let me just double check with the documentation. In Beego, for template for like template engine, I believe I use the terminology correctly. They use what's in already by default in Golang. Let me double check this. So views in the previous example, blah blah blah. Yeah, Beego uses default HTML template engine, and this is actually a very nice example. We can go here. Yeah, I suggest you to check more on this one. I mean, to understand, if you want to understand more about this part. But yeah, it says in here it's used like Go's default HTML template engine. So meaning that when we pass this context variable here, this is how we receive it by this way. And since we didn't change anything here, I will leave it as it is. So we have static files in our default project structure. So this is how we get them. So we will link it through the root path, and then static as a file name, folder name. So I think for now we are good. So what I will do, we need to, like, since we have a new controller, we need to introduce it in router. So I will go to the router and add a new line here. And say that we bind /about to the controllers about controller. Yeah, and it should automatically. Okay, cool. And now I go to my application, which is here, and do about. Okay, so this is our about page. Since we don't have anything specific, and then we also remove like styling, this looks very simple, but for now we are good. We did what we wanted. We introduced a new router, a new controller, and also our new view file. For this part I want to stop for now. In next one we can jump into the models part and then see how we can add a new model, and then make sure that when we save it, it ends up in database. So this will be topic of the next video. For now, thanks for watching. Check the links in description, and see you in next video. Bye bye.